This podcast was created to educate listeners on the experiences of diverse individuals. However, all opinions expressed by the host or guests do not reflect the overall standing of Tarleton Radio or Tarleton State University.
Hello everyone and welcome to Making Space, a Diversity Dialogue. I'm your host Cole, and this is a biweekly podcast where together we'll have questions answered about socially sensitive topics while learning how to create lasting relationships with diverse people. The 2019-2020 global coronavirus pandemic has made an incredible impact on the pursuit of education around the globe. In the United States particularly, we have struggled to bring the education experience to students of all ages. At this time, many lower-level schools have postponed for the fall semester in effort to allow COVID-19 to dissipate. Others offer an opt-in program that allows parents to either opt in for face-to-face classes or have their student do work from home. Higher education facilities like Tarleton State University have given options for students to choose fully online, hybrid, or face-to-face learning. All of these changes have placed a group of students across the states in a very difficult and unstable position. International students have struggled through this difficult time, wondering whether they will be able to maintain their student visas or not, as government policies have flip-flopped. July 6th of this year, federal policies were put into place that would have stripped international students of their visas if they took fully online courses. Thankfully, as of July 16th, due to the backlash and cry-outs from many universities, the government rescinded this decision, giving international students the ability to choose online or face-to-face classes. To help me discuss this topic, the experience behind international students, two guests have agreed to join me today. First is Suzanne McDonald, a Senior International Student Advisor with Tarleton State University's Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and International Programs. The second is an international student, Vamshi. He is a graduate student studying agricultural business at Tarleton State University and has been studying here since January of this year. We did do the interview separate. I'm going to go ahead and play that for y'all. Thank you guys so much for coming on to the show. I'm very excited to talk to y'all. But could you first tell the listeners a little bit about yourselves, both you, Suzanne, and Vamshi?
I'll go ahead and start. So my name is Suzanne McDonald. I'm the Senior International Student Advisor. So what that means is that any student from another country who wants to come to Tarleton and seek a degree, I help them all the way from admission to graduation and just make sure that they're getting acclimated and they have the services that they need.
Yes, this is Vamshi there, and I'm a graduate student here at Tarleton. And my major is agriculture and consumer resources. I recently moved to US, all a long way from India. And I just finished my first semester in the last spring. I'm looking for the fall.
Yes, the fall is definitely going to be very interesting this semester. How was it last semester? Did you enjoy it?
Please don't ask that. Did you enjoy it?
Oh, no.
Obviously, everyone knows the COVID and all. It
Right.
was
True.
not that much, but however,
It was definitely different than you expected.
it was there was a lot of difference, and everything went upside down.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
That-
for everyone.
Yeah,
For sure.
so
But I
No,
think even
Go ahead.
before all of COVID, one of the ways that I connected with Vamshi was that he really wasn't connecting with international students or domestic students at Tarleton, and it can be really challenging. He lives really close by, and so all things considered, it should be easy for him to make friends and make connections, but especially as a graduate student and an international student, that wasn't always the case. So one of the reasons I asked him to join us, besides being pretty fun to hang out with, is just that a lot of students say they want the international perspective or they want international friends, and yet when I have my students, and they all kind of end up hanging out on their own or just being lonely and missing home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Yes,
definitely wanted to mention that.
yeah, my journey was not so easy as I planned, but after spring break, till spring break, Suzanne helped me a lot. spring break was the last vacation of mine in the
Mm-hmm.
US. With the help of Suzanne, I interacted with some international students and I made a couple friends. But after spring break, the lockdown started. It was not easy for me. Like I was staying in a room nearby the campus alone. So everything was like, it was like Life of Pi movie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Uh, it must be really difficult. And I know, Suzanne, you mentioned a little bit about trying to get domestic students to interact with your international students. How do you guys go about even trying to do that?
Well, I think the easiest way that we do it, well, I suppose the most straightforward way is that we do host programs. But just like any student, you all have a million things that's pulling at your attention, right? So you might see a flyer for something and think, oh, that sounds cool, I'm going to go to that. And then your friend calls, or you end up having to do some more OChem homework or something. So we're always competing for your time. And with our international students, they might have an inner drive, but just like you all, when you remember back to freshman year, if you didn't have a friend to go with to the event, you probably weren't going to go. And
Mm-hmm.
then multiply the complications of that if you aren't as confident in the language or it's brand new. And a lot of our international students have had so many different experiences, and they're adventurous people just to even take the stab of trying to come to a whole different country and have a different degree. But at the same time, they still would much prefer to go to any sort of event with a friend. So we have sort of a more relaxed monthly chat and chai event. We have International Education Week. And then for spring break, I really focus on just the international students and connecting them with each other, especially at our outreach campuses. But another way that we've done it is we've had a couple domestic student ambassadors. And these are folks that I see are really involved on the campus and are just really cool people and very inclusive. And so I connect them with our international students. And honestly, in a funny twist, just because of how the student org functions, a lot of our international students have connected with OLAS, which is our Organization of Latinx American
Right.
Students, because they're just an active group. They're really inclusive and helpful. And so they're always sending me messages and saying, hey, does anybody want to go get tacos? Do we want to go out and go bowling? And at first, international students can be kind of confused why I'm sending them off in this direction. But when they meet, they realize they actually do have a lot in common. So it's just trying to find places for them. And because the international students and I have the ability to cater to them when they reach out. If they reach out, then we can talk back and forth and find places for them to fit. But Vamshi's got kind of another layer there because as a graduate student, he's already had a lot of the undergrad experiences. And so kind of my what I'm hoping for is that we can have even more Texas experiences. But even if it's just something as simple as a domestic student who knows that they're going to the football game and just sending out that like, hey, I'm going, we're all meeting up here. Anybody that wants to join us, come along it's really helpful.
Mm-hmm. And Vamshi, what was your experience, at least for the first part of the semester? Did you feel like that these programs really worked, or were there some things you wish you could have done that you didn't?
Yes, yes. I'm so thankful to Suzanne. At least I got to experience for the spring break. It was the beginning where I reached out to Suzanne personally and I explained my concerns because I don't have any of my community people or else any other students from India too. So I was feeling lonely. So I reached out to Suzanne. She has planned well and everything was going fine. I enjoyed a lot. Then after the lockdown started, and the classes were like online. I
Mm-hmm.
was all alone in the room. So the main task was like maintaining the mental peace and in hand with the like academics too. You have to study in your room. You don't have friends to talk, and it was quite difficult in the starting, in the beginning.
Right, very isolated, which is even more difficult, I feel like, for you, just because you already were isolated in the first place,
Yes,
being an international student.
yes. Like it was not that much. I can say it was difficult, quite difficult
Mm-hmm.
for me to get out of that. Right now, I'm fine. Like I made myself habituated to everything here, and things are going good.
Good. I'm glad at least it's getting a little better, and we do have some face-to-face opportunities now. I did want to ask both of y'all about that. What was your experience over this summer when the policies were still not set in stone, whether you would be going face-to-face, if you were even able to stay here? How did that make y'all feel? How was that experience?
Yeah, after finishing the first task of maintaining academics in the spring, the next thing was these updates of ICE and all. Like they literally made us like go crazy
Oh,
because
yeah.
these rules kept changing, and our we immigrants, like international students, they get panicked with this sort of sudden news and all. So that was a disturbance in between, and later they decided, and like everything was going cool. But in summer I have not taken any classes personally, so I was making myself comfortable firstly with this type of situation which we never came across. So I improve myself, like spending time with myself. I usually practice spirituality. That may sound a little bit different, but uh, maintaining the mental like peace is the main thing for
Of course.
students, like when they're isolated, and we can't spend our whole day holding the laptop or phone. So I usually spend myself going to the rec center, which was like it was really for me, at least that was open in the summer. So even though like that was not a common thing, like maintaining the social distancing, maintaining the hygiene, but I spent a lot of time in rec center as I'm a fitness freak, so
Oh, yeah, it makes sense.
yeah,
With all that emotional stress, sometimes working out is the best
yeah.
way to get that out of your body, right?
So all the summer I just remember the rec center, and I do meditation in the campus. Usually every day I go to a campus and I spend some time and take fresh air, and I sit and do meditation near the Tarleton statue. So I make myself peace and calm.
Now, Suzanne, you're on the side of administration and being that in-between kind of person. How did that affect you and your relationship with your international students?
It's sort of a mixed bag. I think for the domestic or the international students that are here in Stephenville, for me, I felt that gap a little bit more, not being able to just say, oh yeah, come on over to the office, especially knowing that they were struggling. And when lockdown first started being discussed, a lot of my students, they kept asking me if they should go home or not. And that's not a decision I can make for them. So we just had to have them work it through for themselves and talk about pros and cons. And we were really limited with information. And it's so hard not to just tell them, we'll just come in the office and we'll figure something out. Or, yes, everything's going to be okay and it's all going to work out. We just didn't have answers. But now that things have calmed down a little bit and it's sort of the new normal, we've come up with some really creative ways to connect with folks. And I would say my population is probably, they have a little bit of a leg up as far as video conferencing because they've been calling back home in that way and other ways for a while. So that's kind of been the upside, is that the programs we've never been able to get out to Waco or get out to the Fort Worth campus, now we can kind of connect a little bit easier and a little bit better. And even though Texas is huge, what I'm really hoping for, and I'm hoping that we can continue to develop, is more of a Tarleton international community that exists within all of our campuses. And so they're all relying on each other. And especially when it comes to visiting the US, it can be really cool if I can get your, right when the pandemic hit, we were about to go to our international market tour. And so what that looked like was renting a van in Stephenville and having all of our students that are interested go on a trip out to the Fort Worth area and hit a couple of the different international markets there just to get food from home and then food from countries that they didn't know and do a cultural exchange in that way. And so even though we weren't able to do it at that time, we're really trying to figure out new ways to have that type of programming And so we're looking at for International Education Week. And Vamshi, I'm going to put you on the spot here because I haven't had a chance to ask you yet. But I'm really hoping for some of our students that they would be interested in hosting a Zoom cooking show kind of thing.
Oh, wow, that would be really interesting.
All about food.
Yeah,
So
I love cooking.
Exactly. So we're really hoping to have Vamshi come and do his own Vamshi's Kitchen and have folks learn how to cook along with him.
Please don't make me a chef now.
It's going to be great. There's just so much out there. And that was one of the things during our spring break trip that I really focused on. Food is really important to me, and it's such a way to have a different experience without leaving your comfort zone too far, I guess. And so we hit a lot of different places and tried a lot of different foods while we were in the Metroplex. But we have to come up with some new ways to do that. And definitely on the administration side, it's frustrating. We get as frustrated for the students as they can be. A lot of us are very empathetic, and so we feel the frustration that the students are feeling alongside them, as well as with ourselves for not being able to keep that community going and keep things going and having all the answers. A lot of us are used to being the person who has the answers, and right now we're just having to sit with uncertainty, which is hard.
Right. It seems as if that building a connection virtually, or even now, hopefully, some face-to-face programming is going to be like the most important part of having international students and catering to them, and hopefully getting the experience y'all wanted to in the first place get here. Now, Vamshi, I kind of want to go a little bit back before COVID happened. What first made you interested in studying outside of your home country?
Well, actually, I moved out because of the main reason, like international exposure, which I was seeking for, obviously, and to improve myself, making use of what I've studied in my bachelor's, which was ag business. It was related to agriculture. So, and also my brother used to stay in US, like he's working here. He stays in Pennsylvania. So, as I had support with my brother, so I was interested in studying in US, like just to get exposure, how it will be, how the things are here. Because studying agriculture is a different part for me. Like just knowing the technology, how the agriculture is being done here. So it was quite like a learning process for me. And at Tarleton, especially, they have provided me the best master's program in ag business, which made me interested to do my master's program here. And I've interacted with the professors, like our advisor, prior to reaching US. So that made me like, okay, I got a good feedback from my professor and support from the professor, advisor, everyone. So I just moved out.
Okay, that's really interesting. So just like the connection with Tarleton, with the advisors and professors, made you feel as if this was the right place for you.
Yes.
Now, what was it like obtaining a student visa and going through the international studies program when you first started?
Getting a visa was not a difficult part for me because of my studies and a good GPA in my undergrad. So I was quite sure that I'll be moving to US in a couple of days. So I made myself mentally strong, and I prepared a plan to how to do my master's and how to study. I was like quite like what you call so much interested, but the things went wrong. So
right. You
but
had a
quite
plan.
this was a good experience for me. Like after all, it's all about us in the end. So you have to go through these struggles so that you make yourself stronger. It's okay. Like it was good experience. Hopefully everything goes well in the future.
Yes, I hope so too. Do you plan on hopefully attending face-to-face classes again this fall?
Yes, personally, I feel like from my field, like in agriculture, I felt quite comfortable with face-to-face rather than online because of my like spring semester, which I have observed, I felt quite comfortable with the face-to-face classes, but right now it's all like depends on the number of candidates for the class registered. So it's all up to the safety at first.
Right.
But hopefully it will be like, if it is mixed match, like it is a hybrid model, as they said, some classes as the face-to-face interaction and some online, so that there will be a connection between the professors and the students as well, not like the spring semester. Hopefully looking forward for the face-to-face at the first phase.
Yes, I know a lot of people are looking for that. I mean, and having, especially in agriculture, having that face-to-face hands-on experience is really important, and that has always been made a big deal of at Tarleton. So hopefully we'll get that back.
Yes.
Now, do either of you have any thoughts on prospective international students, what they should look for in looking for a university to come to in the United States, or even in Tarleton, or maybe just how they should interact with the situation that is right now, COVID? Are there any good tips you guys have?
Susan should tell this.
Well, one thing that's important to note is that even though, so recently there was some guidance released by ICE and the Department of Homeland Security, and it was really troubling, and it made it seem like the U.S. was even more unfriendly towards student immigrants and student scholars than before. And luckily that guidance was overturned, and we have now gone back to where we were in spring, which allowed a lot more of our current students to have flexibility, because at first it was kind of like, well, if they're international students, the whole point is them coming to the U.S. to study face-to-face, so if they're not going to do that, they should stay in their home countries or leave and go to their home countries and study online from there. And at surface value, I can see why folks would think that was a good idea, but people forget that some of our international students, if they came in at a junior college or community college and then got an associate's degree and then a bachelor's degree and then a master's degree and then even a PhD, these are some of our brightest folks out there, our brightest scholars. And to say to them, well, now just leave, that assumes a lot of things. That assumes that they don't have family here, they don't have a support system, they don't have a job or a car or friends, families, loved ones, and that it also assumes that they have all of that infrastructure in their home country, but that's not always the case. And even if it was, it's still a student, and that kind of interruption can be really detrimental to their home study. And ultimately, I don't think any student came into college being like, oh, whether it's face-to-face or online, and if it changes at midterm, I can roll with all of it. Like, we found out a lot faster how important it is to have the face-to-face component, and how much importance is really placed on success and connecting that to the physical space of college. So for prospective students, unfortunately, the guidance has not been the best, so we will not, in very few exceptions, we will not be accepting any prospective students. So we have a couple transfer students who will be starting, but for the most part, most colleges across the U.S. are not able to start students in the way that we are used to and the numbers that we're used to. And even if we could, travel is still really, really difficult. Getting visas is very difficult. There's a lot of budget cuts going on. So it's a mess. So in a perfect world moving forward, for prospective students coming to the U.S., I think it's really important to recognize and really take a moment to understand how you're going to process loneliness. Because even if you are the most introverted person, you have every intention to go, and this applies to U.S. students going abroad as well. If you are like, I am so ready for this adventure, there is going to be a time where you are just overcome with being in a different time zone, a different culture, away from family, away from things that are all familiar to you. For me, it hit when I was about 2 months into being away in Europe, and my flight got canceled and I was overwhelmed and people were not nice at the airport. And I ended up just going into a bathroom stall and just crying. I lost it. And I just wanted to go home. And I was so tired and just overwhelmed in that moment. And so I called my dad and spent the money to make the international call. And I was like, I am so tired. This is so hard. And it's not what I wanted. And I don't know why it has to go this way. And he talked me through it. But it's just important to understand that it's a good experience overall, but it is challenging. And I think that's important for folks to recognize when you welcome people in as well. There were just a few people along in my life as a traveler that will always stick out to me, people who let me do laundry in their house or cooked something at home because all I had done is eaten out, or just gave me a space where I didn't have to worry for just a few minutes. And I'm amazed and impressed by them, because sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I was just this random girl who showed up with their son or daughter, or just wandering through. And yet it is so important. One of the initiatives that has taken a back burner, unfortunately, is connecting our international students with folks in the community and other Texan students so that they can actually go into a Texan home. It's crazy to think, but it actually happens more often than you would think, that sometimes our students come here for 4 to 7 years and they never get invited into a Texan home, which, considering Southern hospitality, is wild. But
especially here, it seems like that's what we base our whole personality or
we just don't
on.
think about it, and it's just that experience of going over to someone's house and having a meal and just talking to them about like their day-to-day lives. It's just part of the whole experience. And I think that we're remiss to think that they'll just find it somewhere else, or thinking that they're going to get it in res halls or something like that, because not all of them live in res halls. And we just, being a little bit more aware and open, I think it just takes a back burner, especially now when everybody's kind of overwhelmed with everything going on.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned before that unfortunately you guys aren't taking any new prospective international students. Do you think that'll change soon, or do you think that will be for the next couple semesters?
We don't know. It's not a Tarleton initiative at all. We still send out, when we get applicants, we still process them, we still approve them, we admit them, we give them any documentation they need and try and hope that they can get a visa. But it's out of our hands on whether or not folks at Homeland Security and Border Control and just all of these different agencies, because there are so many, it's not just ICE. There's so many folks that come into play when it comes to international relations. So, this was,
I agree.
Yeah, this was one of the first times that I called a senator, but I felt like I had to as soon as it came down that the new policies affecting international students and the guidance that came out saying that if we moved all online that they would have to leave the country immediately. I picked up the phone and I called my senator and was like, this can't happen. We have to recognize the billions of dollars that international students bring to the U.S. and the jobs that are created and just all that goes into supporting them, and recognizing too that some of the folks that are, a lot of the folks that are in our medical schools and in our laboratories, those are international students, and they're literally the best of the best, because giant schools that have these huge research budgets, they have the budget to go and fly out to different countries and recruit these people that can just do creative, amazing things. And so we need them here. And I was talking to just like a receptionist or something like that, and she was like, well, what school are you from? And I was like, oh, no, I'm just calling as a private citizen, just wanted to throw this out there. But if we can, all it'll take for us is as soon as travel gets easier, as soon as policies ease up,
be welcoming more students.
Exactly. So we do have a couple students who they can defer right now, so they can choose to defer, or We're working to get them enrolled online so they can still be making progress towards their degree. And then as soon as we can get them here in person, we will be doing so.
Awesome. Now, Vamshi, I wanted to bring you in for another question. With your experiences, what little you did have on campus beforehand and with other domestic students, was there anything that listeners could do to help you integrate more? I don't know, be better friends to you?
Like, as I try, like, obviously having friends on campus or else around, it's a good thing so that we get some time to spend with here students, especially natives, and learn their experiences and learn their culture.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in, like, it's all about learning from the beginning, like giving our information, like how we in India we stay and we how our culture is, and learning their cultures. So that is the main thing which I was looking for. And Suzanne also, like, as I talked with her for a long time, so uh, she was correlating with my idea, like it's all about learning the new cultures and all. I was hoping for a good, like, programs. There was a chai time which was planned, and
Right.
so many programs I've gone through, but suddenly everything got shattered.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so, like, she made a group too with international students, which was an initiative, like they can just to have all over the information uh, circulated in between international students. And well, I'm open. Like, I love making friends, obviously, but I can't reach out. Right, but I can't reach out to everyone as personally.
Right.
So
So maybe just being able to listen to what you have learned and to share your experiences with other people. Hopefully, with this podcast, you'll get some more interest in international and domestic relationships with students. Now, finally, is there anything that I missed that you guys wanted to talk about or make people aware of?
yeah, like, as a graduate student, I just wanted to suggest some small things which will be helpful. I hope so. Like, in the perspective of a student. So main thing, like, it's all about the self improvement and self development in, and apart from your all surroundings and these hard times and all. So a small suggestion from my side, like, maybe they like it or not, but practicing yoga and meditation, I'm damn sure that this is going to help. It's all out,
Yes.
but I just wanted to make a small effort in getting improved themselves, like
Mm-hmm.
working out or else doing some physical activity. But I believe there is a lot of benefit from doing yoga and meditation
Of
altogether.
course.
So that is the thing I just wanted to let other people or other students
Yes.
to know, so
That's
that
good.
they will
And
come out of this everything, like whatever things hard times are they are facing in their personal life and day-to-day life.
just focus on yourself and like improve yourself
Yes, yes,
in a physical way will then help you in a mental and emotional way.
yes.
That's very good.
Yes. End of the day, it's all about us first.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I'm still not great at meditation. I have been, my
That's a-
dad's been trying to get me to do it since I was a little kid, and I always just tell him I can't do it. I can't be still. But yoga, I can get down with some yoga anytime.
Mhm.
I think for me, one thing that is really important when talking to Americans about international folks and international students is recognizing that they've had just as much of a wealth of experiences as you've had. So really looking at interaction as an exchange instead of just telling your story. Yes, they're here to learn from us and to really understand the culture, but you're missing out on an amazing connection
Mhm.
if we don't take the time to ask, what other experiences they've had up until this point.
Right.
And especially with folks here, I hear it all the time where they don't mean to because it's coming from a really good space, but sometimes they forget that this is a very capable individual who has taken a huge step forward, and a lot of our international students, they speak multiple languages. They have different degrees and certifications that might not be recognized in the U.S. but are still very demanding and just different than what we have. And so I think, I mean, it's crazy, but there are some folks that I met over 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and having those connections in different countries is so cool. You know, I have people reaching out like, oh, if you ever come back to Switzerland, bring your son. We can't wait to meet him. And it's so incredible. That's what that true cultural exchange really is. Like, you never know, if you invite Vamshi on a barbecue picnic type of thing today, you might find yourself having some incredible tips if you ever travel through India, which of course I highly encourage once our world opens back up in a safe way. So it's just a really cool thing to have those conversations, and I think there are, especially as we navigate these next few months or more, international students might be the closest we get to traveling for some time. So being able to at least have those conversations and understand those worlds from a personal perspective is a small way to get to know the world when we are all really stuck at home.
Right. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for agreeing to come on. Hopefully I'll have some more stuff for international students to come on and talk about their culture and just share with the listeners. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you.
I would like to thank our guests once again for coming on. I really enjoyed this interview. I hope you guys did too. They gave a really interesting and new perspective that we haven't had on the show before. And I'm very excited to possibly work with international students some more and get you guys some more information. Now, we did go over a lot today, and there are plenty of materials out there for you to go and search, but I did leave some resources, as always, down in the description for you to learn a little bit more. If you have anything that we didn't cover or you still have a question, don't hesitate to visit us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter and message us. The Planet 100.7 is where you can find us. Be sure to tune in next episode, where we'll be discussing the experiences of individuals with mixed ethnicities and the balance of their cultures. Until next time, folks, be safe and take care.
This has been the Tarleton Radio Network podcast with production from AJ Heyer and Taylor Welch. Find more great shows by searching Tarleton Radio Network wherever you get your podcasts.